In his final months, our dog, Oscar, struggled. He couldn't really see. His hearing was mostly gone. I'm not even sure he had all that much of a sense of smell left, really. He'd get stuck behind a couch. He would navigate the house by using the walls or the furniture, and he didn't always know where he was going. Or he would wake up in fear or pain, I couldn't know exactly what, in the middle of the night, howling and barking and just waking us up. And sometimes it made me so mad. Just blind rage in that moment, impotent, punch the wall kind of anger. Actually punched the floor. I didn't want to actually hurt the drywall. I might have. So I guess I wasn't that blind. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. But love and peace, that's not all there is for us to take in this world. Buddhism teaches us, bids us to keep remembering that suffering is unavoidably woven into life. And that so much of our unhappiness, our pain, our rage is rooted in our clinging to the idea that it shouldn't be there. I did not want Oscar to be in pain, to be afraid. I didn't want him to be old, to be dying. And fighting the reality of that suffering sometimes made me just stupid with my own pain and anger. Now, whenever that happened, I did get over it, usually fairly quickly. Did my best to comfort the little guy, clean up after him if that's what was needed, and just sit. But that comfort was delayed by my own inability, and maybe, frankly, a refusal to breathe in pain. His and mine. And Amy's, who also loved Oscar and felt his coming death as strongly as I did, and loves me and didn't want to see me suffer. But to reduce suffering, first we have to see it. Now that is the central theme of Tonglen, which is a Buddhist meditation practice that is captured in the 59 slogans, a collection of guiding principles that are attributed to a 10th century Buddhist master named Atisha Dipankara. My Indian's not that great. The 7th slogan carries the central message. Sending and taking should be practiced alternately. These two should ride the breath. When I breathe in pain. When I breathe out peace. It is, in a word, counterintuitive. In his teachings about Tonglen, Chogyam Trungpa admitted as much. He saw such great potential, though, if we could just adjust our thinking. He wrote that sometimes we feel terrible that we are breathing in poison which might kill us, and at the same time breathing out whatever little goodness we have. It seems to be completely impractical. But once we begin to break through, we realize we have even more goodness, and we have even more things to breathe in. We have a lot to expand because we have basic goodness, which is an inexhaustible treasure. The more we give our best, the more we are able to receive other people's worst. And isn't that great? I think it is pretty great. That the more joy and love and peace that we can give out, the more we have. In The Prophet, Khalil Gibran wrote that the deeper that sorrow carves into our being, the more joy you can contain. Tonglen shows us the reverse is also true. The more room we make for joy, the more space we have to take in, to acknowledge, to be mindful of pain, ours and others. What does being mindful mean? Thich Nhat Hanh asks in a 2013 essay. And he answers that it means, first of all, that we stop and observe deeply what is happening in the present moment. If we do this, we can see the suffering that is inside us and around us. We can practice looking deeply with concentration in order to see the causes of this suffering. We need to understand suffering in order to know what kind of action we can take to relieve it. Han wrote of what he called applied Buddhism. Applied, he said, is a word that is often used in science, and we deliberately use it here as a way of saying that our understanding of reality can be used to help clarify and find a way to transform every situation. There is a way to handle every situation with compassion and understanding so that suffering can be lessened. In the reading this morning, Pema Chodron speaks first of Tonglen and compassion in a way that is, I think, easy for anybody to understand. Trying to breathe in, take in the pain of those who are ill, who are dying, or for the person we see in pain out on our walk. But she shows us it's more than that, because the world's suffering is so much more complicated than that. And sometimes the pain point is our own sense of inadequacy. Me sitting on the floor in the dark with an old dog, knowing there's nothing I can do. Ukraine. Our own fear or anger or injured pride get in the way. As Sarah told Dessa on her podcast, pain takes away our ability to be present. Before we can be present, before we can breathe out peace, the pain we need to breathe in may well be our own. That is often true for me. In my meditation practice, I find myself breathing in and accepting my own pain. Sometimes physical, as I get older, more often physical, over things like sleep-related injuries, which are kind of annoying. But really, more often than that, fear or anxiety, anger, insecurity. And I try to breathe them in and hold them in the hope that by seeing that pain, I can keep it from driving the way I treat other people. And in that moment, that is inward focused. But as Chodron points out, seeing the way our own pain holds back our own compassion can open us up to seeing the same pain or similar pain in other people. We can use our own stuckness as a stepping stone to understanding what people are up against all over the world. Breathe in for all of us. Breathe out for all of us. Use what seems like poison as medicine. We can use our personal suffering as the path to compassion for all beings. Because when I'm afraid, I don't trust. When I hurt, I lash out. When I am insecure or question my own self-worth in some way, I will see other people as judging me, and so I judge them right back. Or I'll judge them first in a sort of mangled understanding of do unto others before they do unto you. But once I take in that pain, see that it is part of my own human condition, I can maybe see that it's part of everybody's human condition. Now, that's easiest, of course, to see in people we know and love, or at least like. But we can't cut off the circle of compassion there. Compassion for all beings needs to mean compassion for all beings. Those we don't know, those we don't like, those who hurt us, those who cause pain in the world. And that last one, to breathe in the pain of people who cause us pain, it's a big ask. I mean, in Texas, the governor wants to prosecute parents of trans kids for letting their kids be who they are. In Texas, they don't want teachers to say gay. George Floyd, Dante Wright, Breonna Taylor, sexual assault, child abuse. This morning, I read a story about some people who gave up their dog because they thought the dog was gay because it humped a male dog. It ended well. The dog got a great home with a couple of guys who are pretty sure the dog isn't gay because he doesn't like being in pictures. There is such real pain in the world. And in the practice of Tonglen, those who really are into it, Teacher Trungpa talks about it as a literal thing, breathing in that pain. It's not just a psychological, in fact, he writes in his commentaries, this is not esoteric, this is not psychological, it is real. I don't know if I can go that far in my own head, but I love that image of sitting in meditation. Pema Chodron writes of people who think of breathing in just this dark, oily smoke from the world, or the fiery, painful red, or a green slime, and pulling it out of the world and into themselves because they feel they can help transform it. I don't know if I can do that in a one-on-one, personal context, in the real world. But I sure want to try. There's this passage from Thich Nhat Hanh that I keep coming back to in my sermons. He wrote, "To look deeply into the suffering of those who have caused us to suffer is a miraculous gift. Thanks to our observation, we now know that the person is suffering. He may think that his suffering will be lessened if he can cause us to suffer. Once we are in touch with his suffering, our enmity and bitterness toward him will vanish, and we will long for him to suffer less." I keep coming back to this passage because it reflects the person I want to be. I guess I write the sermons I think I need to hear. And I need to hear this message again and again until I really learn and embody it. So, probably for a while still. But I know it's possible. I have seen people do it. There was a training that I was at for mediation just last year. And one of the wonders of the pandemic is it taught us that we can use Zoom. So I got training from a woman who is in a mediation program in Baltimore. She's Black, one of the best trainers I've ever worked with in this field. And she talked about being in mediation with racist white men. And my first thought was she would just say, well, I can't do this. But in mediation, what we're trained to do is create that space. In a sense, we don't talk about it in these terms, in a sense, to breathe in that pain, to make the space for the person to tell us what in their life brought them to this moment and created this sense for them. And so she would ask this guy, what in your life led you to feel that way, to believe that that is right? She didn't agree with him, but she saw that that experience, his life experience, brought him to that moment. Whatever that pain was, whatever those experiences were, and he may not have seen them as pain. She may well have thought he should be over it, that it was a stupid reason to be a racist son of a bitch. But she didn't say that, because the reality is that suffering, whatever it was real. And in Tonglen, in Buddhism, what we're trying to do is see the reality, not cling to the idea that it shouldn't be there. And then, bit by bit, come with me and we can change it. On a walk with a little dog, maybe. This weekend, I went back for the first time in quite a while and read Thich Nhat Hanh's essay, the one that passage came from. And I discovered the rest of the paragraph explains how taking in our enemy's pain can bring us both peace. He wrote that the spring water of compassion, of the compassionate mind, begins to flow, and we ourselves are the first to be cleansed by it. We feel cool and bright, and we can smile. We do not need two people to bring about reconciliation. We do not need two people to bring about reconciliation. When we look deeply, we become reconciled with ourselves, and for us, the problem no longer exists. Sooner or later, the other will see our attitude and share in the freshness of the stream of love which is flowing naturally in our heart. Or not. I mean, some people will not return peace for peace. At least not anytime soon. But compassion is not transactional. We shouldn't extend compassion to get something in return. We act with compassion because, as Master Tungpa wrote in his Tonglen commentaries, somebody has to plant the seed so that sanity can happen on this earth. Wouldn't it be great if the next time somebody said he started it, it was because they planted that seed of sanity instead of they threw the first punch? God, make me a channel of your peace, St. Francis prayed. Grant that I may not seek so much to be comforted as to comfort, to be understood as to understand. That Christian prayer so beautifully interweaves with the Buddhist yearning for enlightened compassion. Both are seeking a blessing of understanding so we can love the world better and more fully. Still, I wrestle with how this plays out in the real world. There is a lot of real pain. And if I am a theologian at all, and I'm not, I am a practical theologian. The thing about Tonglen is, despite its poetic language about riding the breath, it is ultimately really practical. Master Tongpa writes, just do it. Don't think about it so much. It's not for debate or discursive thought. It is sit, take in the pain, breathe out peace as much as you can. We breathe in our own pain so we can acknowledge it, so we can see its root or its cause, understand it, all so we do not expand or inflame that pain. So we do not expand or inflame pain in the world. And we breathe in others' pain for pretty much the same reason. If we see the pain other people are living through, accept that it is real, whether we think it should be or not, we can at least try not to make it worse. And less suffering is good. Now look, sometimes this just isn't something we can do. In any given moment, for any given person in the grip of our own pain. Trying to absorb or comprehend the suffering of another may be too much to ask, especially if the other is the one inflicting that pain. As Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, touching pain when we're not ready may only make things worse. And we need to leave room to forgive ourselves for that. To the extent forgiveness is even needed, but to give ourselves and others that space too. We need to remember, always keep in mind that pain is at once both universal, common to the entire human living experience, and deeply personal and individual. Everybody hurts. And yet, as Dessa points out at the opening of the podcast episode that Amy read from this morning, it's impossible to get inside somebody else's pain. To hurt, she said, is a private experience and difficult to discuss. I can't hold up my pain to the light for you to examine or drape it around your shoulders to see how it might fit. Pain is a room for one. Only you can enter. And sometimes you can't leave. She's right, of course. There are limits to what compassion can do. No matter my good intention or the depth of my compassion, I cannot live your pain. Cannot truly feel or fully understand it. And probably I can't take it away just by trying to breathe it in. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I would love to be wrong about that. But here's what I can do. I can see it. I can see you, whoever you may be. Maybe I can't enter your room for one, but I can peek through the door. I can sit at the threshold, listen through the open door. I can take in the truth that pain is a part of who you are. And maybe you can do the same for me. And with that acknowledgement, that connection, maybe we can all breathe out just a measure of peace. So may it be, and amen.